Hi, this is Barbara Sanders, and it is, let's see, June 29th, 2025. And this is my YouTube channel called Sacred Metamorphoses. Feel free to click on the subscribe button below if you'd like. I've had an interesting day or several days and wanted to talk some about death, grief, and rebirth. And Prince will be mentioned too. So this shouldn't be too long, but I just wanted to talk today. I've been thinking a lot lately about the human condition and death, grief, and rebirth. And I felt the need to share some of my thoughts, beliefs, and ideas. And maybe part of this was watching a piece of a documentary this morning called Prince, The Final Secret. I loved Prince, and he helped me get through my 30s. Just loved Prince in so many ways. Part of this is about a neighbor of mine dying a few weeks ago. She was hit by a truck while walking her precious dog Angel across a busy urban crosswalk in downtown Nashville. So tragic and sad. Also, I'm going through a little list here. My father died with dementia in 2013 at the ripe old age of 91. He was a brilliant and talented man and loved by many, including myself. My mother lived 9 years after losing him, and she died at 99 and a half years old in 2022. And she was one of the most loving church lady women I have known. Stoic, but generous and kind and compassionate always. She graced me by moving to Nashville after my dad died, and I got to know her as an adult for really the first time in my life, not having lived near my parents since college. I learned about so many parts of my mother that I hadn't experienced before. A wonderful woman, generous, kind, and gracious, with her own anxieties and worries that she handled pretty well by staying busy most of her life and most of the time. I learned that skill a little too well. My sister's death followed my mother's death when she died suddenly in surgery when she was 72 years old, which is my age now. No wonder I've been thinking about death. Also, my oldest dog over here, Silk. Let me see if I can get you a picture of him. There's Silk. He's 14 and a half years old, and he's on his way toward that veil that separates our physical lives and the eternal realms. He has been my companion, friend, and family member for over 10 years now. After we rescued him when he was 4, I took him to work every day since then and used to talk about his separation anxiety, finally realizing how silly I had been projecting onto him my own. My current neighbor's long-term dog family member across the street died yesterday, so life has been full of grief. And recently I learned that a friend has Alzheimer's. Another friend died a couple of years ago, as have others, and my first close friend who died was Beverly, and we were both 46 years old. That was also a sudden death back then. For those of you who don't know me, just briefly, I grew up in the Deep South, an Episcopalian preacher's kid. I went to college at Sewanee as an English major and was the third of 3 children to 2 good enough parents. I was lucky and blessed, although, like all human beings, I grew up struggling in some ways and enjoying life in other ways. I became a social worker in 1977 and have lived in Nashville, Tennessee since then, starting my own private practice in 1989 after having worked in management in psychiatric hospitals before then, also working at the public defender's office at juvenile court and at Oasis Center, a youth-based counseling and runaway shelter. I loved my work as a psychotherapist, and although I retired 2 years ago, I'm outing myself here. I'm really only semi-retired, still seeing a few clients and enjoying this new space and phase of my life full of more peace and quiet time and energy for myself to enjoy my life in a different way from working so hard before. I also have a wonderful, dear, sweet husband and a fabulous son. Back to grief, death, and rebirth, or death, grief, and rebirth. I don't know what the order is. I've been open to learning about all kinds of healing practices all of my life, starting not only with psychotherapy, but body work, Reiki, creative practices like art and writing, meditation, breath work, and all sorts of alternative practices. Having wandered around and through the psychedelic renaissance since 2018 after reading Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, I found a new healing practice that is somewhat controversial in some circles, though legal and amazing in its benefits. Elon Musk's 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 Elon Musk's heavy use and frequent use of ketamine, along with Matthew Perry's death related to ketamine, have given this particular gift a bad rap. My father used to tell me that anything that can seem really good for us can also be dangerous, like cars and alcohol, as well as many other substances that can be both life enhancing and risky. Ketamine can be and has been misused before by some people instead of using it as a sacrament in ceremony for healing and using it infrequently. But I'm not here today to talk too much about ketamine. If you're interested and would like to hear more about the therapeutic and healing uses of ketamine, you can read about it or contact me and I can refer you to some resources here in Nashville. Ketamine, you will read about, helps people with treatment-resistant depression and anxiety. But I think it can also be a healing service for so many others in so many other ways, much like psychedelics. Both are powerful tools for growth, and it's best to respect these medicines and sacraments along with those who are experts in these fields. I respect them greatly. I think that ketamine, though, is a gentler and kinder experience than some psychedelics. And who doesn't want kinder and gentler in this world, which can be so full of sadism, cruelty, and violence? At times. Other times, it's beautiful. I also know that we sometimes experience a type of catapulting when tragedy occurs, which shakes us up long enough to prompt us to heal and grow. And sometimes a kinder, gentler approach to healing is wonderful indeed. So grief, death, and rebirth. I seem not to be able to focus on those topics like I wanted to. We all know that our terrible grief about losses is connected to our deep love as well. We cannot live as human beings without some pain and suffering, along with the beautiful and amazing loving parts of ourselves and our lives, light and dark. Without one of them, the other just doesn't exist. And one goal, though, is to decrease our suffering and flow more easily through the tragedies that occur, and to help others with that too. One of my interests is how we can live more fully and openly, more aware of so many of our parts inside us, along with the depth of love we feel for individuals, pets, and for our communities. The dynamics of conflict, though, sometimes adorn our lives, and we move through cycles of growth and development in order to live as best we can. Flowing in, around, and through, hopefully, all of the energies that life contains, getting stuck sometimes and breaking through at other times. Without breakthroughs or breakdowns of our conditioned patterns, training, and usual responses, sometimes we don't grow or learn well at all. And the good news is that so many people are now aligning together with a focus on sacred liberation and sacred revolution, that we have access to moving to higher levels of human development, increasing our frequencies and vibrations while still attending to daily chores, jobs, and other tasks in life. I know that part of my goal in life is to trust more fully, letting go of what no longer serves me, which are those patterns and trainings that I learned so well early on in our patriarchal culture. And by the way, I'm not using the term patriarchal to mean male, the gender male. It's far more than that and different than that. Also, allowing and opening up to new space inside me while letting go, which may feel like emptiness at times, so that I can wander around with even more security and a clearer sense of who I am than ever before. I also attempt to surrender to spirit, and people use so many words for spirit. Use your own if you have one, or you may not have one at all. No labels or words for what this intelligent resource or divine force or energy is in the world these days, but I attempt to surrender and receive these days when all I knew before was to work hard and get some of what I wanted or needed, just working hard. Well, it turns out spirit, or so I believe, is all around us, inside us, and through us. And we don't have to work so hard when we really get that. It's hard for me, but becoming more and more easy to receive. I didn't know how to do that before. And like my mother before, I had learned so well to stay busy, so I didn't feel anything too deeply, especially when heightened stresses occurred. My body would tighten up, I would clench and contract instead of allowing myself to breathe deeply and fully, because then feelings could erupt and scare me or others. As we age, I think, thankfully, we can sometimes lose some of our fear about life and all its many colors and variables to embrace more of what is. And that's a term from Byron Katie, accepting what is, instead of attempting to run away from or avoid what seems unpleasant, horrible, or chaotic, like the news of the world these days, with all the warring and conflict and division going on. If we only focus on those outer pieces of data, we could get flooded with so much negativity that we can spiral down into hell here on Earth so easily. But it's tricky because information is still knowledge and knowledge is power. And knowledge sometimes helps us feel safer and um, or rather at least more clear about what in our lives is dangerous and what may be more life enhancing. And I do think we also need to take action, and only when we're well informed. So, death. Yes, our physical forms and those of our family, beloved friends, and pets do come to a close. And we can fight against that all we want, and sometimes do, never changing that outcome. Perhaps that's why someone like me develops even more of a spiritual life late in life, when I've had more time and space to learn and experience more about who I am and how I interact with all parts of life, from natural disasters like hurricanes and wildfires to a lost love, especially when the other person is still alive in their own skins. That kind of ending seems to me much harder than grieving a loved one's physical death, is when they're still alive. I've worked over the years with so many traumatized, grieving, depressed, and anxious people. Life can be so very hard for many people. And then through blessings or luck and good fortune, we find teachers, if we're looking, mentors, and communities who can guide us to discover more truths about ourselves and the world. Those people who help us wander even further into the unknown, deeper into the forest and oceans of ourselves, supporting us as we move through the rugged terrains of our lives. I've been very blessed or lucky to have been able to find such teachers, guides, and mentors at times in my life, and I'm so grateful for them all. Now I'm bringing myself to a close here by talking about rebirth. To me, rebirth is about the epiphanies we experience, the awakenings we experience, and the ahas that seem to come to us without hard work or efforts on our parts. Now, I do believe set and setting are important, and our openness and willingness to receive and to listen, but hopefully not just through hard, determined work like a recipe we're following, to open up to all the energies of the universe and cosmos. I believe our minds cannot figure all of this out for us. We are full-bodied, full-hearted living beings whose egos and minds are not the only places to turn when we're lost in the wilderness. I feel and see energies and dynamics all around us and inside us and radiating out from us. Spiritual liberation and spiritual revolution to me means diving into many of those shadows and dark places inside us so that we can find our light with the help of source or spirit, or whatever you want to call that, that supports us as we learn to find the sparkling within us and hopefully then find ways to radiate that light out to the rest of the world through just being who we are, doing whatever we do, bringing in more loving kindness, openness, and willingness to embrace the dark and the light within others as well as within ourselves. I need to say something about judging, though. When we bring or feel the light within us, it comes partly from accepting again, not judging, so that we're open and willing to become more a part of humanity in all the myriad ways people can act and behave. We see them, we feel them, we know them. And we're careful then and smart about who is safe for us and who is not, and hopefully work together to make whatever changes we can make within ourselves for the benefits of all human beings and all living beings, and also allowing space for others to grow and develop as they will too. Back to Prince. It turns out I did finish watching this documentary, Prince, The Final Secret. And it turns out that the secret they're disclosing was not only that he was a musical genius, entertainer, sexy man, I thought, songwriter, producer, actor, and so much more. He was also a strong philanthropist. And he kept a lot of his philanthropy anonymous for the most part. No wonder I loved him, a great humanitarian. And I know he was full of many parts too. And I hear that there is a documentary about Prince that's not being released because his estate won't agree to it because it shows some of the shadowy parts of Prince. I hope one day that's released as well. I learned from watching other people, right? I learned from witnessing and seeing the world and feeling it. I think we all do. So, although I don't know this, I hope that the death of the physical form is also a practice in rebirth. I believe that our souls are eternal, whatever that means, and that we may drop down into these finite human bodies at times. And then we might experience being human and assist other living beings as we grow and change. Maybe when we die, our energies travel back into some soul space without physical form, where we continue to grow and experience what our human brains cannot yet imagine. That seems to be the nature of the divine mysteries. We just don't know for sure. But I do have hope that we are being taken care of, even if it's in weird ways, ways that we wouldn't choose if we were to be our own gods and goddesses. Not that we are fated or have certain destinies, because I also believe in free will, and therein lies more mystery. We are co-creators of our lives, experiencing troubles and pleasures throughout our lifetimes here on Mother Earth, seemingly just because. And I still greatly miss those loved ones and loved pets who have been my companions here in this world. And I do believe they rest in great peace these days, and that they are still somewhat available to me when I enter into that peaceful, guided or non-guided, open, energetic space and let, whether you call them spirit beings, our ancestors, or whoever is available to us, all the energies available to us, if we can receive and listen to them. So that's my Sunday sermonette for today. I never knew I wanted to be a preacher like my dad, but I do get moved and churned up and try to open to the divine and let this amazing source speak through me any chance I get with my own human flavorings. I know this is not all divine, what I have said today. Thank you for listening. You can subscribe for free below, and you will receive more of my ramblings another day. Thank you so much. Bye.